Welcome back, Fantasy Fiction Fanatics. It's great to see you again, and I hope you're doing well. Today we are going to be going over the last set of chapters for Homeland, and we'll be finishing up book 1 in this trilogy, so we will be able to move on to book 2. So hopefully you are enjoying this book, you have enjoyed discovering Dritz and all the things that he's going through right now in the Underdark. I really like this book in the fact that, or this whole series in the fact that it's very dark, but at the same time we have a really good main character that we enjoy, or at least for me, that I enjoy, I guess I should say, because he is like the spark of light in the darkness, and I just think it's a really unique concept, especially if we're thinking about in the fact that it is a Dungeons and Dragons based story. It's in that same, it's a different world than like Dragonlance, but it is part of the game, part of worlds that are based on the game, and it's very, very different than Dragonlance, so very much a contrast to Kryn and Dragonlance and stuff like that. So I think it's really nice to see, you know, how the spectrum is for Dungeons and Dragons related stories, how you can have one side and then all the way on the other side for the Forgotten Realms, at least this part of the Forgotten Realms. I haven't read any of the Forgotten Realms books, like the ones that are actually titled as the Forgotten Realms, so I can't really compare it that way, but I will say I do feel like there's definitely two distinct worlds here, and I like seeing that difference between the two of them, and I like experiencing this other darker side. So hopefully you are enjoying discovering it with me and talking about it with me and just having a great time revisiting this world and discussing it together. So chapters 24 to the end is the chapters for today. Let's go ahead and dive right in with our recap so we can get discussing some other things as well. So we start off this set of chapters with Dinan reporting what happened with the elemental and the gnomes. And Matron Malice is really happy about how things went and the fact that Dritz took down an entire elemental almost single-handedly. She goes ahead and calls upon Lolth and gets to talk to her handmaiden and asks about their enemies. Because she's like, oh hey, we defeated this enemy, we did good, so now let's try and get a little bit of tidbits back from Lolth and find out who's actually targeting them. And the handmaiden tells them that they should already know, and so she's not going to tell them anything. She is very shocked to hear this and calls all of her family members together to try and figure out who knows about which family is attacking them. Pardon me? So meanwhile, Sinefe is really mad that Mazrov failed. So she puts him back on killing Dritz, and secretly puts Alton to also go after Dritz. And we have that being set up while we then cut back to Matron Malice, who is interrogating the family, and Dritz makes the assumption, or puts together the pieces, that Mazrov was trying to kill him, and that maybe that means that House Hunnet is the one that they're after. So they figure out, okay, House Hunnet is the one that is attacking them and are going to need to make a plan accordingly. Okay, so after they figure out that it's House Hunnet, they then go ahead and call upon the handmaiden again, which really irritates the handmaiden, and they try and ask for some more information about how to go about defeating House Hunnet, but the handmaiden informs them that they don't get to ask any more questions, and the fact that they recently displeased Lolth more than they have pleased her, and that they should already know what they have done. So Malice decides to take Briza and spy on the family in order to try and figure out who displeased Lolth. And they end up zeroing in. Pardon me, sorry guys. They end up zeroing in on Dritz and Zack, who are finally taking up their fight or their practice in the gym in order to try and kill each other. And they're fighting, battling. They are also talking while they're battling, and they're working things out, and they finally realize that they had some miscommunication going on, because Dritz did not actually kill any Fae children. He is still the same him, with the same principles and same feelings about the Drow lifestyle, and Dritz finally realized that he misjudged Zack, and that Zack is actually who he thought he was, not who he had come to believe that he was. So they end up making up, but on the other hand, Malice and Briza then know that Dritz did not kill that Fae child. As such, Dritz decides to go for a walk, despite the fact that he shouldn't be going for a walk and was told not to, but he needs to clear his mind, think through his thoughts, readjust to the fact that Zack and him are now on good terms and what he learned from Zack. And while he's gone, he gets caught in a net or a trap for a cave fisher. And it's might be possible that he dies. And while we're having that anxiety, we move over to Malice, who is interrogating Zack, and Zack decides to sacrifice himself in order to let Dritz live. So it's down to one of them, and Zack gives up his life as Malice hoped in order to preserve Dritz's life. We cut back to Dritz, and Guenwyver has been sent to kill him. Magically, she has to follow this instruction, so she goes after him, but she ends up breaking the magic in order to not only save him, but breaks it completely at the end and doesn't have any urge to kill him. And that's when Dritz decides to take Guenwyver back for himself and confronts Majov, and Alton is there too, so he ends up fighting both of them, and with the help of Guenwyver, he is triumphant, kills both of them, and is able to claim Guinevere's statue for himself and to be her new master. He goes home and meets with his family. He ends up telling them about his defeat of both Alton and Majov, which is very, very happy for Malice. But then he learns of Zack's sacrifice and defies them, rebels against them, and escapes the house. And he and Guenwyver are going to go out into the Underdark and live out there, and leaves Mesobaranzan behind. So, pretty interesting stuff going on here. We've got a lot in these last set of chapters. We've got the reconciliation with Zack, we've got the fight with Alton and Majov, we've got stuff with Malice and Briza plotting, we've got the discovery of House Hunnet, we've got all these different things that are going on, and we end with Dritz being on his own with Guinevere going out into the Underdark and leaving the Drow life behind. So, quite a bit to unpack, quite a bit that is leading us up to our next book, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But first, let's go ahead and talk about Guinevere, because she actually becomes kind of a prominent character despite being a cat and most of the time being under Majov's control, but we do really see her becoming more and more of a personality and more of an actual character in many ways as we progress through this story. The first thing I want to talk about for Guinevere, and something that I think is pretty prominent, is the nature versus nurture idea. So we already talked about it in terms of Dritz, but I feel like we see it also, this conflict with Guinevere. Because Guinevere, yes, is like a spirit from like another plane that was brought by magic, but now this is partly like, I don't totally know how this works. I don't know if the spirit was just then linked to this device, or not device, the statue, but a magic was used to create Guinevere, and create that extra space. Like, I mean, it's like more like going away than really another world. Or was Guinevere already a spirit in that other, space or world or whatever it is, and is linked then through magic to the statue and is brought forth and must obey? But either way, this statue and this link, or the way to bring forth Guinevere or created whatever it is, was created through magic by Dro. And the intention was for Dro to be able to use Guinevere for killing and destroying of their enemies and being a partner to crime and such as that. So in many ways, whether Guinevere was a bloodthirsty monster or a spirit or whatever, that was then linked to, or expected to be that way, and was linked to the statue, or was actually created through the making of the statue and that magic. Either way, the actual creation that brings Guinevere into existence was created by a Dro, and to have its nature be horrible, to want to kill and murder and be helpful for that. So we've got at least the making of this statue, possibly of Guinevere herself, to be a malicious intent. But Guinevere is not malicious or evil or vindictive or, wanting to just murder everything in sight. She actually hates pretty much all of the masters that she's ever had, because they have made her be bloodthirsty and kill needlessly, and she does not like it one bit. Now, though the creation of her, or at least her proxy into this world, was the intent to be malignant or to be evil, she, as by nature, not that way. Her nature is to be nice and to be much more a friend that is used to protect and to defend than to attack and to maul and to, shed blood, just to have the amusement of it. So her nature is to be kind and to be a partner than to be a tool that is used to kill. Again, hates all her previous masters because they made her kill and be a murderer and be vicious and, claw their eyes out and murder them. But she doesn't want to do that. And despite the nurturing that she has had, which is to be evil and mean and to murder and have bloodlust, she has defied that and kept to her nature as a good being, to want to be friendly, to want to have respect given to her and to give it in return, to be somebody who is a partner for defense and to, build that bond with somebody that can then be protection, but not somebody or something to go out and murder and to just kill for the fun of it, or to kill just to serve a master's needs. So she is defying the nurture that she's been given with the connection that statue has been. We don't know exactly how old that statue is and how long Guinevere has had to do that and how many masters she has previously had. But that's likely to be a lot of nurturing. And she still hates it. And her friendship with Dritz and how the respect that the nurturing that he's giving, the respect, the friendship, the, not just sending out to murder and to be a partner, has been fostering back up that nature to make a better connection with Dritz than she did for Mazjov, who literally killed somebody in order to take her. So we have this friendship that then becomes stronger than the nurture that they have been placing upon her, which is like the magic, the force that they use in order to make her bend to the will. And the story is very similar. Her story and Dritz's story is very, very similar in the fact that her nature is to be I don't want to say like violence free, but she's a gentle cat, a gentle panther who just wants to be used for protection and used as a partner, as I've said. And she's been forced into it, but the nature that she has stands fast enough that she does not enjoy it, she does not seek it out, she has not been ruined by it. Her nature is strong enough to hold firm. Dritz is the same way. His nature was fostered by Zach originally, which is, how he got his foundation, and then the university tried to break down that nature and to do the nurture that he had for being malicious and trying to be ambitious and trying to, be cruel and conniving and all those things. And he does not want to be that kind of person. And he stood fast to the nurture that was pressed upon him and forced upon him to continue to be true to his nature. So we've got both Dritz and Guenwyver, who are both had this struggle between nature and nurture and the environment around them trying to press in and make them conform when that's not who they want to be. And now they have become a pair, and they are now stronger together. Dritz is strong, and as such, that strength is being given back to Guenwyver enough that she could break the magic that was binding her to make her kill Dritz in the end. So I find it super interesting that we keep having this kind of concept of nature and nurture, and it's not, everywhere in the fact that we don't see it in Dinin and we don't see it in Briza, we don't see it in Malice. We just see it in these few people, but that makes it stand out even more of this concept of like, are you who you are by nature, or does nurture make it so that way you are who you are? And we see that kind of contrast between the steadfastness of the nature and how nurture can break you down. The fact that, for example, Zach himself kind of was broken down a little bit. I mean, he's still staying to his nature, but it's been kind of muddied. His nurturing was strong enough that it kind of bogged him down, and he does kill other drow. It's not as steadfast as it could have been because of this other nurturing that did press down on his nature. So let me know what you think about Guenwyver and her as a kind of like a character. We did get to see more of like her thoughts and her feelings in this last set of chapters. Her being a partner and a pair with Dritz now. I mean, it's them against the Underdark at this point. So obviously she's going to continue to be important, at least for Dritz, in this next book. And so I thought it would be really interesting to kind of talk about her, especially with how similar Dritz and Guenwyver's stories are. They do really match up well, and they make a nice friendship and a nice partnership moving forward. Next, I'd like to talk about Zach's role or purpose in this story. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because Zach was kind of a big point or a big person in this first book, and it seems like, at least in terms of his life, we have finished up his role or his purpose or whatever else in this first book. Not saying that he can't ever come back or have more of a role in the fact that he existed at all and that characters know him, that could still be influencing later things. Or you never know. It's a fantasy story. Maybe people come back from the dead. You never know. But at least I feel like the bulk of what Zach's purpose was fulfilled in this first novel. And the fact that then he had his death at the end, and he was kind of a prominent character. So he had this whole thing where his life now is over, and it was all contained in this one novel. So I just thought it would be good, especially since Zach is so important to Dritz, to kind of talk a little bit about his role or his purpose in this story, in this book. And it seems like the main part of his purpose is supposed to be for this first book. I feel like one of the big things for Zach's purpose was to nurture Dritz's good side. He is the one that really blooms Dritz's original nature of being a good person as he's growing up, and he's teaching him his weapons fighting before he goes off to university. So a big thing for Dritz is Zach's nurturing and how he taught him that life could be. Without Zach, if he was just, with Malice or Dinan or his sisters or anything like that, he would become much more focused on the negatives of his world. Of course, that's of course what he has, focusing on negatives of his world and how people treat each other. But Zach gave him several years where he could actually laugh and have a good time and, feel connected to somebody, and to know that, Zach's teaching him, yes, the way of the Dro, but at the same time teaching him how great it is to be a happy person that does not just want to kill everybody around him. So Zach really is important for nurturing those first years, several years of his life, really nurturing that bud that then bloomed, of being a good person and not just wanting to become part of the Dro society and all the things that Dro act and do in order to get a leg up in this world that they're living in. So he really shows Dritz positivity, how to live, how to love. He fosters that spark of goodness. He really demands it of him almost to keep that. That's why he didn't want him to go to university. That's why he was pushing to keep him longer. How he was worried when he came back, how he was going to be as a person. He is Dritz's role model for, a lot of times, he was looking up to Zach and wanting to be just like Zach, and to see him as a role model of who he actually wanted to be like versus Dinan or Malice or anybody else. He really wanted to live up to Zach's expectations and Zach's look on life. He also is really important because he teaches Dritz weapons. He is the one that convinces Malice to let him learn to be a weapon person versus a magic or anything else. And he really teaches him how to be the top of the top, like how to be the best. Zach's initial years of teaching is really what sets him on the course to being the best of the best, and to even make it possible for Dritz to even think about living out in the Underdark, because he knows that he can take care of himself. He's not, invincible, but at least he has the best shot out of anybody in Mesoporanzan to go out and live on his own. So Zach really fosters and teaches him a lot in his younger years, as well as just being that role model for Dritz. Also, the fact that he is sacrificed for Dritz at the end here really pushes Dritz to leave the family. Like, without Zach there, he's like, I ain't gonna be here, especially if you're the one that killed him. So Zach's second role, or third role, I guess, or purpose in this story really is to push at this ending point to have Dritz leave this life behind, to try for a new way of living, to try for freedom and to have a better life. So Zach's sacrifice then pushes Dritz out that door and makes it so he does not plan to stay with his family any longer. He no longer has any motivation or any reason to stick around, and he is out that door like a flash. So for me, I felt like Zach's biggest purpose was to really build Dritz into the person that he becomes by the end of book one, to really nurture him in the right direction, to give that beginning years for him that are so important for development, and to be able to withstand the oppressive nurturing of the university, to prepare him with being a good weapons wielder, to be able to defend himself, to be the best of the best, and to then at the end give him that final push that he needed to go out the door and to look for a new life. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on Zach. I'd love to know what you think his purpose is, what his role is. If you think that, there's more to Zach that I'm missing. But I do feel like a big thing for Zach is to be that initial person that really teaches Dritz how to live life. So super, super interesting. I really like Zach, and I'm sad that he's gone. At least for now, we believe that he's going to be gone. But unfortunately, that is the way the story is. It's not really a happy story. It doesn't have a lot of happiness in it, if you didn't notice that. So we have to take what they give us, and we have to just see where the story will lead us now and what adventure we're going to go on. Next, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the ending. So, of course, we're going to do a transition from this book to the next book, but first let's go ahead and talk about the actual ending of this book. Because I felt like it was very suspenseful, especially compared to the rest of the book, that I felt like kind of just, not that there wasn't any problems, but it was just kind of going through the stages of Dritz's life. But then at the end, we have this suspenseful fight with, Majov and Alton, and we have the suspense of Zach getting sacrificed, and we have the suspense of, is Dritz going to make it out of the house, and then the suspense of thinking like, oh my gosh, where is he gonna go now? So we have a lot of high impact, high suspense moments here at the end. Everything else, we did have some, nervous moments. We have some times when Dritz is in trouble a little bit. But for the most part, we're just going along, seeing what's going to happen, and we're kind of just watching Dritz's life play out so far. But here, we really get into, like, oh my gosh, like, what is going to happen? He's getting caught by that cave fisher. Is he going to make it out? Oh my gosh, now Alton and Majov are against him, and what's he going to do? And oh my gosh, Zach is getting sacrificed. What is happening? And then we get back, and oh my gosh, when is he going to find out about Zach? Is it going to be like a long time? No, it's right away. Okay, he's defying the family. He's running out. All this stuff is happening right here at the end. And so I feel like of all the things that we had, is like, not most stories are like this. We got your beginning where we like suss everything out and we figure out our characters and we figure out the events and what's going to happen, and we go along and the tension starts growing, and we peak, and then we have a resolution that kind of slows things down, and we kind of see the aftermath of everything. Well, this story, it's like we're going along. We might be rising a little bit in tension, but not super lots. And then the ending, we're like, bam, all the way up here at the top, and then 2 seconds later, there's like, the resolution is like, super fast. Like a nosedive, like, okay, we're done. We're done, the end. So it really came as extra late in the story, like literally last minute, all the suspenseful things happened. We wrapped up with exactly what's going to happen, at least in this book, with the whole Majov thing, with Alton's thing, with House Hunnet, at least at this point. We can't really say that House Hunnet is done, but at least with the points that we were building on, with Alton, Devere, and Majov being the two main players, that's finished. We've got the whole part about him dealing with his family. That's finished. We've got the whole part about, the conflict with Zach that was in there. That was resolved, and now Zach's gone. So we have a lot that it's wrapped up, suspenseful right at the end. And also, the thing that I think is interesting is that our resolution, or our coming down from our conflict high, is that we end on like a super clean note. I don't know if you feel that way, but I feel like we really stopped at like a solid stopping point, I guess you could say, in the fact that he's left the house, he's burned that bridge, he's burned everything that he's had behind him, his whole childhood and everything wiped out, and now he's in a place where he's going to start fresh and go on this new part of his life, this new journey. We've really had a hard cutoff on like a really good clean break to now have a fresh start for our next book. Not saying that nothing from the previous book or this book is going to come back in the next book, and not saying that nothing that we've built so far is not going to matter going forward, but we really end on a new beginning, where hopefully then we will start our next book exploring that new beginning. So I really liked how like we had all this suspense and we have all this craziness. We do end on a nice little note that there is some hope for Dritz, and there is some hope that things will get better for him, and that he will discover a new way of living, and that he will do what Zach couldn't do. We've got that new beginning on the horizon. So I really liked that sense of hope, that sense of freshness, that even though everything kind of came late and all of the excitement happened late, we still got to end on a nice clean note, and we'll be starting off our next book hopefully with that clean note at the beginning, that we can then see how that flourishes or how that gets destroyed based on the Underdark being awful. So it's very easily gonna be a mess after we start, but we'll see. We at least have a little bit of hope to look forward to in the next book. How do you think about this ending? Like, how do you feel? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Would love to know your thoughts as well on this ending. And now let's go ahead and kind of transition to the next thing, which is transitioning from this book to our new book. Of course, we like to talk a lot about our titles and about looking at the covers. So let me really quick pull up the cover here. Let's see. I wasn't prepared, guys. Sorry. I didn't have it pre-pulled up. Come on. Here we go. Okay. I'll go ahead and flash it up on the screen for you guys so I can take a better look at it close here. But here is our cover. So first of all, the title, Homeland. It's very self-explanatory, especially based on what happened in this story. Homeland is where you come from. Homeland is where you started from. Your childhood, your home that you grew up in, the place that you're from, and that's exactly what we've experienced here. We experienced where he came from, we experienced his family, how he grew up, we experienced Mesobaranzan, which is where he is, which is his homeland. House Do Urden, which is, the house that he grew up with. So it's a very fitting title for the start of a person's journey. We saw him even being born. So really, this is a nice title. I like it. I think it fits. It doesn't really tell us much about what's going to happen. It seems a little bit nicer of a word to say homeland than, the place that you wish you'd never been at in Dritz's case. So it's kind of, it's fitting. Doesn't, again, really explain anything about what's, going on, but it's very fitting for the start of a trilogy and the start of a character. So I do really like that about this. Next, let's go ahead and talk about the elements on the cover. So we'll start with the background. It's very fitting for the title to be Homeland, and it's very fitting for the background to basically be depicting that homeland. So that's what I'm getting from the background. We've got these mushrooms and these kind of trees and these walls or whatever. It's all very dark. It's got that purple to show that's like dark, gloomy place. I really do actually like this purple coloring a lot. And we just see the background like city lights and a couple of buildings and stuff. So I really think that it's cool that we have like the detailing on like the pillars in the background and the buildings. So we can see that the homeland is there. Interestingly enough, I feel like this is really depicting the ending of this book because we see the homeland in the background. We see him facing away from the homeland, and we see Guenwyver next to him, and it seems like maybe this is where they're leaving the homeland. Like this is the depiction of them being at the end. He's got his sword. He's heading out into the Underdark, into the unknown, where there are all the monsters. So it's nice to see a little bit of a depiction of the homeland, and I feel like based on this picture, we're kind of seeing the ending that we got. It's a little snippet of where they are going out to have a fresh start. He does look like kind of a mess though. I mean, I don't know what kind of clothing that is in the Underdark, but it looks like it needs a few sewn up places. It looks kind of ripped up. But maybe that's the style. Maybe that's Mezzo Branson style. You never know. But yes, it does have a very nice picture of the ending once you know that the book, or at least what the book is about. Otherwise, I would not think that this would be the ending scene of this book based on just seeing the cover. But I do feel like it means a lot more once you finish the book and you close it and you're like, oh my gosh, this cover is leading us to the next book. It's a very simple cover. I do like that as well. It's not like crazy where you have to figure out what, you're not distracted by like the different elements on there and be like, oh, what is that or what is that? But it doesn't really help us figure out much about the book or possibly what the next book might be coming for us. So I think that's all we need to say about this cover. So let me go ahead and pull up our next cover and talk about that. Okay. We've got Exile, which is book 2 of the Dark Elf Trilogy. Sorry, I was making sure I was on the right book. Okay, so I'll go ahead and pop up the new one for us. So this is book 2 for Legend of Dritz, as well as, which is the overarching whole series, and then we've got the Dark Elf Trilogy, which is what we're on, number 2, Exile. And this is definitely an interesting looking cover here. We've got a nice new coloring to the actual cover. It's green instead of purple. So we've definitely transitioned from one place to another place, though we don't know what this place is. It is still, I'm assuming, in the Underdark because we've got all of these, like, I don't know what you'd call them. I don't think they're stalagmites, are they? Let me know if that is the correct term, but the things that hang down from the cave walls, the big rock things that are, growing down from the walls. So it still looks like we're underground or in a cave of some kind or whatever, which is essentially what the Underdark is. So it doesn't look like we've gone forward into the world at this point. We are still in the Underdark. Dritz still looks like he needs to sew up some of his clothes because they still look like they have rips in them. Someone needs to give him a nice tailor, like, come on. But yes, it looks like he is fighting something. It's kind of hard to tell exactly what it is, but there are some people that he's kind of jumping away from. He's in the midair, and they got like these really long beards or something. So we've got some kind of creatures or people that he is going to obviously interact with, and it looks like it might not be the most nice of interactions. It might be kind of tense. So we're not really we can't really say like what exactly is happening in this story based on this cover. Again, it's a very simple cover. It's depicting a place, it's depicting some people, and it's depicting Dritz with his swords. Looks like possibly in battle. So probably going to be discovering some things and having to defend himself in this next book, at least based on this cover. It might also be, again, depicting one particular scene, and we will find out what that is. As for the title, Exile, that's kind of self-explanatory, at least in the terms of how we understand the story so far. He is likely exiled from Mesoporanzan, exiled maybe from House Do'Urden. I mean, he did just badmouth Lolth on his way out and kind of broke ties with his family, so he's probably exiled from Drow society at this point. And this is going to be hopefully a book about how he's in the Underdark and trying to live as an exile and survive as an exile. So, all right, I think, again, it's a simple cover, so there's not lots to depict or lots to pick out for the title, for the cover, as far as guessing what is next. But it does seem like we are transitioning from the first section to this exiled life that he is going to be having. So that would be what I would say the expectations are, is that we are experiencing his life out in the Underdark by himself with just Guenwyver, and we're going to find out exactly what kind of life that's going to live and if he's going to be able to move forward from that life or not. We're going to find out. Some loose ends that we might see coming forward. It's tough to say. We don't know exactly what loose ends are going to be tied up, but we don't know exactly what's going to happen with House Hunnet now that he's killed Majov and Alton, and what Sinefe is going to do. We don't know what the family's going to do. So we do have that loose end in the fact that we don't really know what the war is going to happen and if that's going to affect Dritz, whether he's there or not. We don't really know if they've been the house has been forgiven, especially since he escaped. I don't know if Lolth is going to be okay with the fact that House Do'Urden didn't actually kill Dritz after he badmouthed Lolth, but we're going to see that as well. And then, of course, just the loose end of just how is he going to survive out there. Hopefully that will be, well, for sure, we're going to have to figure that out because he's going to be living out there, and that's what we have next. So, not too many loose ends overall, but just a couple things back that he's leaving behind that maybe we will find out, maybe we won't. Maybe it'll matter, maybe it won't. We're just going to figure it out. And we're going to see if he actually never has to go back to House Do'Urden or if he will. That'll be a tough one for us to see if he does have to go back, and I don't know how that will be handled, but we're going to find out. Okay, last but not least, I have two nitty-gritty items that I just wanted to mention and call out. The first one is that Malice still seems to think she can change/control Dritz, which I think is super interesting. And the fact that they sacrifice Zack because he's older, even though he is more under control than Dritz is. Dritz is, very openly against Lolth. He's very openly against doing what he's told. He's very much kind of a rebel, and they know it. And at this point, you would think that they would realize that he's not going to change and that they cannot break him. But they still think that they can. I mean, literally, he didn't kill a fairy child, and he covered it up. I don't think you can really change him. I don't think that you should assume that you can just control him. And obviously they couldn't, because he escaped House Do'Urden. But I thought it was interesting that Malice was still cocky enough to believe that she could change him and break him down. And we'll see if that ends up being something that happens in the future as well. If she still thinks after all of this she can capture him and then bend him to her will. Not sure. But pretty sure that that's not going to ever happen for her. Just saying. Next is that we still see a glimpse of Verna's difference. We still see a little bit of that softness to her. She really didn't want to sacrifice Zack. She did get kind of angry when he said that, he was her father and like confirmed that for her. But even before that, and she had to like kind of do like what's expected of her, and she went through with it, but she really did not want to kill Zach. She liked Zach, and she had some hang-ups over that. So we're still seeing this softness to Verna, and I wonder if that's, or Vierna, and I wonder if that's going to come into play later as well, if that's going to end up being helpful for Dritz or not. But I still feel like we're alluding to it enough that maybe it will matter for the future and that we should keep it in mind. Okay, that was everything that I had for this last set of chapters for Homeland. I hope that you enjoyed this first book, and I hope that you're looking forward to starting book 2. I'm very excited to start it. I will say that I remember more about this book than I remember about the next book. Just from my previous readings, I don't remember a lot that happened, so I'm excited to revisit it and discuss it with you and to see what's going to happen for Dritz. Before we close out, let's go ahead and talk about the trivia question. This is something I'd like to ask you guys about, and the fact that the trivia question I feel like lately has not had very many participants, and that's more than just this past month. I know, guys, I'm sorry, this past month I did like not update it at all. I have updated it now, and that was just because of, you know, me having a lot of things going on and not able to get into changing it. But in general, when I'm doing good, and I usually change it every week for you guys, and but still the last, several questions, I've noticed there's been a drop in participation, and I don't know if it's because I'm not asking good questions for you guys, or if people aren't really interested in playing, or what the deal is. So please let me know if you guys aren't really interested in playing the trivia question. I don't mind that. I just will go away with it. But if you really enjoy doing the question, just let me know what I can do to help it be more accessible, and to be more able to be participated with. So let me know. I'm going to try and figure out possibly my own options of what might be a better solution for the trivia question. But yeah, I just really love some feedback on it to see where you guys are at and if you guys enjoy doing it or not. Again, this was the last question, was the same as the previous question, since I didn't get to change it for several weeks. So again, just a little bit for you who did answer, about asking about who Krampus was in the holidays. And Krampus is the opposite of Santa. He's like this creature that goes and punishes bad kids. So nice job to Christian, Dan, Paul, and Brendan for getting the right answer. I know you guys answered a while ago, but now I'm finally able to once again say who got it correct. And I appreciate you guys for answering the question and participating. I really do enjoy seeing your answers, and I really do enjoy the trivia question, and I hope that you guys do too. I just would like some feedback for that. Okay, so I will see you guys in the next episode. If you do want to get a hold of me, though, you can comment down below. That's a great place. If that's not the best place for you, however, or you want some other options, I do have social media. I've got Facebook, which is /fantasyfiction1. You can direct message me as well as get updates and other things over there. Same thing with Twitter, which is @fantasyfiction1. And if you'd like to follow me, even though I'm not as good on Instagram because I have to take more time to do the pictures for Instagram. I'm still, again, working on that. I know I've said that a while. It's progress, guys, okay? I work full-time and I do this, and it's not always easy to get everything in, but I am trying, and I am working on some new ways to maybe do a little bit more posting on Instagram. So if you want to follow me there, go ahead and do so, and I will get photos up as I can and post on there. I do enjoy it. I do think it'll be fun once I can be a little bit more dedicated to uploading there. But the best place, in my opinion, for getting updates, for talking to me, as well as your fellow fantasy fanatics, is the Discord. So if you want to join the Discord and talk to the other fantasy fanatics that are already over there, direct message me, get updates, any of that good stuff. If you want to do suggestions, whatever it may be, there is a link down below, and we would love to have you join us and to talk more fantasy with you. So Lots of different places to go. Hopefully you will follow at least one of them in order to get some more updates and to see more details from me. Of course, if you want more content from me, the trivia question and the blog posts are over on the blog, which gives more content and gives that added connection with that trivia question. So go over to fantasyfictionfanatics.net for more content from me, as well as that trivia question on the right hand side. You'll scroll down just a little bit and it will be there. So again, give me any feedback about the trivia question. If you have any suggestions or any comments on what you would like, go ahead, and I hope that you enjoy my content, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.